right? First of all, the question comes, what are thin films? Thin obviously means something which is thinner, which is lighter, and film in the sense a kind of material, a very thin layer of material, a very, very thin material. So, starting with the simplest examples which I can give you now is you are seeing the Egyptian mummies, and all these gold plating which was done used to be of very thin. The gold material used to be very thin. Okay. And now we have come to a situation where the materials have become so thin that they are flexible. These are like the flexible displays. We have the technology has advanced so much that we have come to flexible displays, very, very thin materials. Now, how do we understand the difference between bulk material and this thin material or the thin film? Okay, so if I understand a bulk material, this is how a copper wire look like. This is how a copper wire look like. And say for an example, I take this aluminum block. All right. So this copper wire has its own properties. This aluminum block will have its own properties, all physical and chemical properties I'm talking about. So its own whatever is the properties, like resistivity, conductivity, opacity, all those properties. They will have their own properties. Now, suppose I take that aluminum block, okay, and I reduce the size and say I get an aluminum sheet out of this block. I get an aluminum sheet. Okay. So obviously I have reduced the size. I further reduce the size, I get something like an aluminum foil. So this is what you use for wrapping food and all, even in restaurants they use, right? So you started with an aluminum block. When you came to an aluminum sheet, it looked different. It had different properties. Now your aluminum foil, that means further you reduce the size and it has become aluminum foil, and that also has different properties, right? See how flexible it has become. This was such a hard substance. This block was such a hard substance, and the aluminum sheet was slightly not that hard, it was, but still strong. But the foil, aluminum foil, which you have, is much thinner, very flexible. So the properties for each of these, as you reduce the size, kept on changing. I reduce the size of this much further. Okay, say the thickness is of the order of microns, micrometer thickness. Then I can't even hold it in my hand. This foil, this aluminum foil which is there, I can hold in my hand, right? This is like just a few millimeters. But what if I reduce the size much smaller? I make it much, much smaller. Something of the order of micrometer, thickness of the order of micrometer. I'm not even able to hold it. So it becomes a very thin layer of aluminum film. Now I call it as a film, a very thin layer of aluminum material. But since I cannot hold it in my hand, what should I do? I need some supporting structure. Say here in this case, I have taken a plywood. Over the plywood, I keep that aluminum material which is having thickness of the order of micrometer. So how do I now define? So this plywood, the bottom portion, I will call it as a substrate. This is a substrate. The supporting structure on which you have the thin film or this thin material of aluminum is known as substrate. So, okay. So I kept on reducing the size and the properties changed. This is generally called as size effect. Just giving you a few examples of kind of thin films. This is when you go for coloring in the parlor, they use a kind of foil, then your chocolate wrappers, and then any other kind of wrappers. So how do I define a thin film? What is a thin film? So thin means, as I said, thickness of the order of 1 micron or 1 micrometer or 1000 nanometer or 10,000 angstroms. Just remember, very simple, 1 micrometer. Thickness of the order of 1 micrometer. Film means a layer of material which is kept over a substrate. What did we say substrate? Substrate is the supporting structure. That is the supporting structure. So a thin film is a layer of material having thickness of the order of 1 micrometer and is kept over a substrate. A thin film is a layer of material having thickness of the order of 1 micron and is kept over a substrate. Okay, it is kept over a substrate. Now, so with this thin film material, so much helpful has been the different fields. Like it has been lot of applicable in electronics, optics, like that. So many areas it has become very useful. So we just understood the concept. What is a thin film? A very thin layer of material having thickness of the order of micrometer, around 1 micrometer, and is kept over a substrate. Now, so just what are the properties of the thin films? First property is that it is different from the bulk structure. It is different from the bulk structure or the bulk material. Next, they are not denser. Obviously, something which is very thin, density is less. Under stress, so you understand stress and strain, right? I try to deform the shape of this one. So if I take the aluminium block, if I take this aluminium block, right? If I put some pressure over it, it will feel very less, right? But if I take a very thin layer of the aluminium, something of the order of micrometer, any disturbance to it, any disturbance to that particular film, it will affect. So I will say that it is under stress. Now, different defect structures from bulk. So what is this? It's nothing but very simply you can understand the way the atoms are arranged are different. The crystal structure, the atomic arrangement is different. And next, quasi two-dimensional, because it has become very, very thin like this. I can have the length, but the height or the breadth is very less, right? So y-axis is very less, x-axis it is longer, obviously, but y-axis it is very, very less. The size is very less. So it is approximately two-dimensional. It's not exactly two-dimensional. And then strongly influenced by surface and interface effects. Yes, as I said earlier, if I touch it or if I keep anything over that film, it will be affected. Okay. Overall, it is going to change all the properties of the material, like electrical properties, magnetic properties, optical, thermal, mechanical, almost everything it will change. Coming on to applications. First one is chip integration. So all the transistors which you saw earlier in our lab, or the diodes and everything, when you within your computer, I can say within your computer or your phone, they all are like multiple transistors put together. So it's called as integration. Okay. So if I take many number of transistors together, one stage I will call it as very large scale integration. Next, ultra large scale integration, that means more number of transistors. Giga scale integration, GSI, that is here for an example. There are millions of transistors, giga amount of transistors. Okay. Next, conductors, PN junctions, everything. So microelectronics, the field is called as to make such chips, the outer portion of the chip, a very thin layer of the material or a very thin film can be used. Next, magnetic sensors, that is for any detection of change of current or magnetic field. Next, gas sensors, we will learn how a gas sensor works. Then optics is the best example, anti-reflection coating. I put an example here. So there is this lady, she's wearing a specs. In the first image, There is no coating here, it is just the glass piece. So there is some kind of blurriness. There is some kind of blurriness or reflection. When you put a thin film coating over the glass, that blurriness goes off. It's a clear view. It's a clear view. So these are known as anti-reflection coating. So thin film can be used as anti-reflection coating. That also you will learn how it works. Next, wear and corrosion protection. So no oxidation and no aging of wires, everything. If you just cover the wire with a thin film, it will help the wire to stay for a long time. So these are again few more examples. Flexible solar cell. So usual solar cells which are at your home, they all are like at home or anywhere else you would have seen that people use it for heating water. Those are like big cells. But it has come to the stage like this now. The solar cells it's like a mat. It has become very flexible because the thickness is very less. Now, how do we get this thin film basically? It's not just about chopping an aluminum block and getting a small layer of material. So there are different techniques by which you can generate a thin film or you can produce a thin film. Two major classifications: physical vapor deposition and chemical vapor deposition, PVD, CVD. Physical, obviously, that means there is some physical properties which are taking place. Vapor in the sense there is some kind of vaporization. What happens in vaporization? The atoms come out, right? Atoms or molecules come out. Something like that is going to happen. Deposition means it is going to be deposited. So by some physical properties, it is going to happen. Two classifications, one is sputtering, another one is evaporation. These two you will study in detail. Now, chemical vapor deposition, when the thin films are produced with the help of some chemical reactions. Okay. Next, a few other techniques which you just need to know. Electroplating, where you make use of current, electrical current, and say there is a cathode material and onto which you would try to make a thin film. You don't have to study in detail, just for you to know. Electroplating is one technique. Next is spin cast. Okay, casting means coating and spin means rotating. So there is it's like a machine which can rotate and over which the thin film can be coated over. It can be produced over. Last is epitaxial. This is in the case of crystalline structures. So a substrate, that means a support structure. Now always remember, whenever there is a thin film, whenever you are talking about a thin film, it needs a substrate. There needs to be a supporting structure. So there is a crystalline substrate over which you make a crystalline layer. So this is now full crystal stone. Okay, fully crystalline thin film it is going to be. Now, majorly you need to study physical vapor deposition. You are not studying chemical vapor deposition, but I'll just tell you what it is. CVD, I'll just show you one picture also. Why are you studying physical vapor deposition? Why not CVD? Very simple reason. You are learning thin films in physics. So, based on the physical properties, how are thin films produced? That you need to understand. Now, moving on. Whenever there is a thin film being produced, there are three main parts or three main activities, three main requirements. One is a source material, say aluminum, tungsten, or whatever it is. There is a source material. Okay. Next, there is a transportation mechanism. This arrow which I am showing is there is some kind of transportation mechanism. And the last is there is a substrate. So this black thing which you are seeing is a substrate over which this thin film has to be produced. Okay. So there is a source material. Say for an example, let's start with our aluminium itself. We have been all along talking about aluminium block to aluminium film. So aluminium, suppose aluminium material. So source is aluminium. And some kind of transportation mechanism is happening. Okay. And at the end, the film is going to be produced over a substrate, the supporting structure. Now this entire thing, when it is happening, it needs to be under vacuum. So can anybody tell me, can anybody just write in the chat box, what is the difference between air and vacuum? What will be the major difference? Or in the other way, which has maximum pressure, air or vacuum? Which one has maximum pressure, air or vacuum? Air is, yes, air obviously has maximum pressure, right? Vacuum, less pressure. Say in space, when you go out of our atmosphere, when you enter space, it is vacuum, air is not there, pressure is very less, right? That is why all the astronauts, when they go out, they take some oxygen cylinder also, right? So vacuum, we need to create a vacuum. This has to be, we put it under something called as a vacuum chamber, a structure which produces vacuum, that means less pressure. What is the reason for this that you need to know? So, three important reasons for having vacuum setup. Why I cannot do it in air? If I do this entire thing in air, okay, suppose I started with aluminium and say aluminium atoms are coming out of here from the source and they are going to form the thin film. I want only aluminium thin film. If I do it in air, air has other molecules like oxygen and nitrogen, right? So they will interact with these aluminium molecules. At the end, I will get an oxidized thin film. I don't want an oxidized thin film. I want a pure thin film which doesn't have any impurities. Say I started with aluminium material, I want aluminium thin film. Or I started with tungsten material, I want tungsten thin film. So I don't want any kind of molecules to disturb whatever is happening here. So that means it should be a very clean process. It should be aluminium atoms which are coming down and forming a thin film. So if I use air, the oxygen and the nitrogen will disturb the entire process. So cleanliness is very much required. Cleanliness is required. There should not be any kind of impurities due to whatever is the whatever other molecules. I want a very clear, very clean thin film. Next, plasma generation. So if I ask what is plasma, I know what most of the students say. Fourth state of matter, right? Solid, liquid, gas, and then comes plasma. Or else you will say plasma TV, right? There used to be plasma TV at some stage. So plasma, actually the fourth state of matter, is the condition where, you need to remember this, the condition where the number of positive ions is equal to the number of negative ions. When a plasma, or in another way, a plasma consists of equal amount of, equal concentration or equal density of positive ions and negative ions. Equal amount of positive ions and negative ions. I need to produce plasma. I will tell why I need plasma. All of a sudden I brought it here, right? Now again the last one, lower molecular interference. That's very simple. As I said earlier, there should not be any other molecule which is interfering or creating any problem here. Okay. So lower interference due to other molecules, because of which the mean free path for the ions is high. Ions or atoms, the mean free path is high. Now, what do you understand as mean free paths? Can anybody answer in the chat box? What is mean free path? Mean is average, free is free, path is distance. Yes. So distance between, average distance between a collision, whenever or between one atom collides with another atom. So suppose if the distance is less, the distance between atoms is less, then the mean free path is less, right? That means more collision can happen. Distance between atoms or distance between ions or distance between molecules, if it is less, then they are much closer and they can collide easily. Now here I don't want any kind of collision. I am trying to get rid of all the impurities, right? If I use vacuum, kind of no impurities itself, that means no collision taking place, or mean free path increases. Now, okay, just all right, just a few example on, okay, I just given a simple definition of what is a physical vapor deposition now. So here a material is being converted into its vapor phase. Everything is happening within a vacuum chamber, and at the end condensed onto the substrate to produce a very thin film. So you have a material that is your source material, for an example, aluminium. You are kind of vaporizing it, that is why the term vapor. You're vaporizing it, and everything is happening within a vacuum chamber because you want a very clean stuff happening. And at the end, whatever got vaporized, that condenses or settles onto the substrate, and when it settles, it produces a thin film. That is what is going to happen in physical vapor deposition. So the coating materials, there are different types of coating materials used. The substrates also can be of different types like metals, glass, and plastics. Very versatile technology. Now let me go into the classification. First classification is sputtering. So there are two, as we said earlier, two major deposition techniques. One is physical vapor deposition and another one is chemical vapor deposition. Now, what you are doing? Under physical vapor deposition, you are dividing it again. Something is different. Let me go back. So under physical vapor deposition, you are dividing into two. The first one is known as sputtering. Sputtering. Okay, first, this is your first setup. Okay, let's see what are the. So this is the source material. We said source, transportation mechanism, and then a thin film on the substrate, right? So source material is here, aluminum or titanium. Now, here is your substrate. I am taking it as a silicon wafer. So wafer biscuits, obviously you would have eaten wafer biscuits. So wafers are like very thin biscuits, right? So a silicon wafer means very thin material of silicon. So you have a silicon wafer, silicon substrate, wafer or substrate. Okay, both are same supporting material. And what do you have next? Okay, there is an inlet for argon gas to enter. Argon gas, I'm going to let it in. Now, obviously, entire thing has to be under vacuum. So there is a pumping or there is a mechanism to make it in vacuum. Okay, and there is a plasma being formed here. There is this pinky thing. I will tell you how it comes. There is a voltage applied. Now see the voltage applied. The source or this aluminum or titanium, whatever it is, that is connected to negative. That is connected to negative potential. And your substrate or the wafer is connected to positive potential. Source to negative potential, substrate to positive potential. Now what happens? Come to this figure. I am letting the argon gas go in. Okay, I'll call it as the sputtering gas. Argon gas goes inside. Everything is under vacuum. First stage is you set up vacuum. Okay, you make sure it's clean. The vacuum, you have got a very less pressure. You are attaining vacuum. Then you let argon gas inside. Okay, you have to let argon gas inside. Now, what happens? Once you have applied potential here, you are going to give a very high potential. And this source is connected to a negative potential and substrate is connected to a positive potential. So you're giving a very high negative potential and argon gas is entering inside. Because of the applied potential, the gas will get ionized. It will get ionized. That means it produces positive ions and negative ions. Positive ions and negative ions it will produce. So what did we do? First, we have set up fully vacuum and then you let argon gas inside the setup, and because you have applied a potential, because of that applied potential, the argon gas gets ionized, producing positive argon ions and negative argon ions. The moment the quantity or the number of positive argon ions becomes equal to the number of negative ions, it produces a plasma. Because plasma means it has equal quantity of positive ions and negative ions. So the moment it goes in, it produces positive ions and negative ions. If the number is equal, it produces a plasma. That is this pinky thing which you are seeing here. Okay. Now, you have given negative potential to this source material, right? Your aluminum material, you are given negative potential. What will happen? The positive argon ions get attracted to this. They get attracted to this one because you have a negative potential here. They are feeling attraction, Coulomb force of attraction. So positive argon ions, so you are giving a very high potential, okay? Just think of this, very high potential you are giving. So these fellows, the positive argon ions, they will go with a very high velocity or very high momentum. They are going to go and hit this aluminium or titanium which you have taken. Say aluminium, let's start with aluminium, okay? So sputtering, the argon gas goes inside, gets ionized, produces positive ions and negative ions. Whenever the number becomes equal, you say it as plasma. Plasma is produced. Now the positive argon ions get attracted to the wherever you are given the negative potential. So that is this aluminium material. Okay. And they go with very high velocity, very high momentum. They go and hit the aluminium material. Now just think of this. You take a hard ball, a cork ball, okay, and with a very high velocity, you throw it on a wall. What will happen? Obviously, it will bounce back, but at the same time, when it bounces back, it will have some that powder of that ball, something from that ball, that white powder will be there on the ball, right? I take a ball and with nice force, I'm so angry, I'm so angry and with the nice force, I'm throwing it on the wall, okay? The nice force, I'm throwing it on the wall, it falls back, the ball obviously falls back, but at the same time, it brings back some powder which was there on the wall, right? Exactly similar is going to happen here. Argon ions, positive argon ions, they are going with a very high velocity or a very high momentum. They're going to go and hit the aluminium. What will happen? The aluminium, from the aluminium, some atoms will come out. Some atoms will come out from the aluminium material. Those atoms will come like a nice kid. They will come one by one, settle on to this substrate and form a thin film. Okay. So what is the process? Argon gas, everything under vacuum chamber. Argon gas, you are letting in argon gas. Because of the applied potential, the gas gets ionized, and then you the ionized gas when it becomes ionized, positive ions and negative ions are produced. If the number is equal, it produces a plasma. The positive ions feel a very attractive force towards this aluminium because you are given negative potential there. and they go and hit very fast, they go and hit the aluminium material. From there, what happens? Because they are going to hit very nicely, the aluminium atoms come out of the material, they will come and settle onto the substrate. They will come and settle on the substrate and they will form a very smooth thin film. A very thin layer of the material is formed. Now, so I've written lots of things. So that's about physical vapor deposition, cathodic sputtering. Why am I calling it as cathodic sputtering? Because your material, source material, is connected to negative potential, or it is a cathode. It is acting like a cathode. Okay. So that's sputtering process. Now, okay, there is evaporation also. I'll come to evaporations. Okay, a few applications of physical vapor deposition. Decorative coatings like trophies and all, you would have seen there are some coatings on the trophies, right? So there are some people, like whatever is the writing, whatever is pasted onto that is all for those things. It is very useful. Then on the pens, to put a very thin, this one, all those things, pen, pencil, watch cases, especially watch cases, any kind of all those things, it is possible. Then anti-reflection coating, I told earlier itself, if I have a thin film coating on the specs, then there will not be any kind of reflection. It will be very clear. It will be very clear. Okay. Next, for helping for connections, whenever you make ICs, integrated circuits, whenever you do the integrated circuit chips, it will help for making connections. And then obviously for cutting and many other mechanical, mainly wear resistance. No corrosion, no wearing, no aging, no oxidation. If you put the thin film, the material will not get oxidized and it will not be aged. Yes, at position, what happens is there is some kind of chemical reaction taking place. Okay, some kind of chemical reaction, and these are like molecules. You can see like these are molecules together, right? Some chemical reaction happens, and the molecules, these molecules you call as precursor. Okay, precursor. So from the source material, some chemical reaction you have given, and because of that it forms molecules like this, like group of molecules and all, and at the end it forms a thin film. It forms a thin film. It will settle on the substrate. Okay. Right. Now, where are the applications? Mainly for industry, metallurgy process. You know, you have heard of metallurgy, I guess. That is to obtain nickel from its ore. Very simple example. It's a Mond process. It's called as nickel from its ore. From an ore, you try to get the element out. That's known as metallurgy process. Next, some coating, then solar cells. Once again for IC fabrication, and then again corrosion, protect from corrosion, protect for wearing, that means no aging, no oxidation, like that. Okay. Now, the thin film structure, like how you have different structure for materials, solid classification, you have different structures, right? Crystalline, polycrystalline, amorphous. Same classification is applicable for thin films also. So crystalline, polycrystalline, or crystalline thin film, polycrystalline thin film, amorphous thin film. Crystalline thin film, ordered arrangement of atoms. Polycrystalline, there are like multiple crystals together. Each of them have their own arrangement of atoms. Amorphous, random arrangement of atoms. A few examples: silicon vapor is crystalline, but a thin film of silicon can be polycrystalline, and a thin film of silicon dioxide will be amorphous. Okay. Now, moving to the next classification of physical vapor deposition, that is evaporation or thermal evaporation. Different ways of evaporation. So, in the sputtering process, you had the source material on the top, right? And then whatever atom was there on the source material, that was coming down and settling onto the substrate, forming a thin film. Now here in thermal evaporation, it is the other way. Whenever evaporation occurs, for example, when you boil water, evaporation happens from, say you have a vessel in which you have taken water and the water is being boiled. From a lower level, the molecules go up, right? They get evaporated and they go out, right? From low level to higher level. Similarly, here you have your substrate material. I am saying it as a molten material or something. It's not the substrate, sorry, very sorry. Source material is now at the bottom. You have the source material here, and here is the substrate. This green one is the substrate. Okay, so there is a holder for the substrate also, not the green one. The green one is a holder, black is the substrate. Earlier you had source on the top and substrate at the bottom. Now you have source at the bottom and substrate on the top. Okay, so how do I heat it? Water. How do I heat water? I put it in a vessel and keep it in the stove, right? So I need some kind of heating structure, right? So that is this thing which is called as a crucible. Very simple meaning, oven. Oven. It's like an oven. Something which will produce some heat. It will act like an heating substance, heating material. Okay. And you have your source material here. The source material gets heated up, and whatever, when it's heated up, or whatever are the atoms in the material, they get evaporated, they come out of the material and go and settle onto the substrate or whichever is there on the top, and there they produce the thin film. Everything has to be kept in a vacuum, so there is a connection to do that. Okay. Now, one main point to be noted is I have put something called as a shutter here. There is a shutter. Okay. Why do I need a shutter? Can you think of this? Why do I need a shutter? The entire process is very simple. I am heating it from below. I have put the source material here. I am heating the source material. From the source material, the atoms are going out and they are going to settle onto the substrate. They are going to settle onto the substrate. The process can go on, right? Why do I need a shutter? Can I think of why should I keep a shutter? Shutter means something to close, right? Something to close this entire process. Why should it be? Why should I have a shutter? Everything is going on smoothly. So why should I have a shutter? It is being evaporated, atoms are going out from the bottom and it is going and settling onto the substrate or the wafer. But why do I need a shutter in between? Just think of, why do I need something to stop the process? Think and write. Nobody is able to say. If I don't have the shutter, this keeps on happening, right? This keeps on happening forever and ever. If I put a shutter, then I can control the rate. Why? Suppose I want like something like whatever is the thickness, say I have planned 1 micrometer thickness only. If I don't put a shutter, the thickness will keep on increasing. The final thin film, right? So I can control the rate at which the atoms get evaporated from here. I can control the rate of evaporation. That is the use of a shutter. I get limited and then I open, again it happens, and limit, open like that. Okay. But now there is a problem here. Whenever I use an oven like this oven also will have some kind of material, right? This oven is obviously made of some kind of material. So that can interact with this source material. These fellows can interact, or I can say impurities will come, contamination will happen, right? I will not get a pure, I wanted a clean and pure thin film on the top, right? I will not get it if this oven is there, this material can create problem. So I have to get rid of contamination or impurities. So for that, there comes another technique which is called as electron beam evaporation. Electron beam evaporation. Basically, I'm going to make use of electron beams in order to heat. Instead of an oven, instead of some heating material, instead of a material which was causing impurities, I will use electron beams. So how does that happen? See the figure, very easy to understand. I have here, look at the bottom, this portion. This filament which I have written is a cathodic filament. Okay. And I apply a potential across this filament. I apply a potential. When I do that, cathodic filament means obviously cathode will have more electrons. So when I apply potential, electrons will come out of this filament. Okay. Electrons will come out of the filament. This entire setup is known as an electron gun. Electron gun. I want a gun which will shoot electrons, which will produce electrons. So that is what is happening. A filament is there and which is connected to a potential. So when the potential reaches this filament, electrons come out of the filament. Okay, they come out, and where do I want them to fall? I want them to fall here. This is where my source material is. This is where my source material is. Okay, and I have kept it in a substrate, some supporting structure called as ingot, and which is in a water coolant. All right, my substrate is actually here on the top. This line is actually the substrate. So electrons are coming out, and I want it to fall here only on the source material. How do I do that? How do I do that? For that, I apply a magnetic field. I apply a magnetic field. Basically, I direct the electrons. When I shoot the electrons from this gun, the electrons, I direct the electrons and let it fall onto the source material. And let it fall onto the source material. Okay. Electrons come out and let it fall onto the source material. When they come and fall on the source material, what will happen? They pull out the atoms whichever are there on the source material. Let's say for an aluminum, for example, is the source material. Whatever are the atoms there, they are being pulled out or evaporated out. Those atoms go and settle on the substrate and form the thin film. Okay, so actually I am bending the trajectory of the electron or the path of the electron beam. I am bending the path of the electron beam. The electrons coming out of this, I apply magnetic field, I make them fall, I direct them to fall only on the source material, and then from the source material, the atoms are being thrown out or they are being evaporated out, and they go and settle on the substrate. They go and settle on the substrate. Okay, they go and settle on the substrate. Now, at the end, it produces a thin film. Why do I need a water cooler? That is so that there is no contamination process happening. There is no contamination happening. That is the reason I am keeping this coolant. Okay. And another advantage, when I based on how much magnetic field I apply, I can make it fall at the center, I can make it fall at this side, I can make it fall this side. Wherever I want, I can make it fall, or I can make it fall locally. It can be a localized process. Everything can be localized. So from this position only the atoms will be evaporated, or if it is here, only from this position the atoms will be evaporated. So I am able to control the rate at which the atoms get evaporated. I am able to control the rate at which atoms get evaporated. So thermal evaporation, in general, you use an oven, but that oven can produce impurities. So for that reason, you have electron beam evaporation, where the electron beam, a beam of electron, you produce some electrons by applying a potential to a filament. We call this entire setup as a gun, electron gun. and the electron beam come and fall onto the source material. Wherever it falls, the atoms are evaporated. Evaporated atoms settle onto the substrate, producing the thin film. Okay. Now,